Okay, well here we go. I'm going to paint this extremely fast. Overall wash, greeny grey. 1 or 2 gaps left, right the way across the buildings. Okay, that's the first wash. Next comes the slightly grey blues that will go in. It's a light sky overall, maybe 1 or 2 little patches of white, but nothing too much to be left. But the building is very much in a backlight, so it's all in shadow, basically. A little bit of cloud work just dropped in, and the odd patch of blue, perhaps a touch there, and a touch above the sails there, and a touch there. Maybe a little bit running across there. And that is very fast first wash. There we are, allow that to soak in. Next thing we do is look at the yellow on the field. Well, I'm using Naples yellow for that. Blend that through, and I'm now doing a little light red. Blend that through like that, and I'm even putting a little bit of the real pinky red in. And my old trick, pick up these crop markings at an early stage. Put a bit of Naples in those crop markings. It just gives foreground perspective. There you go. And that is the first stage of the picture. I need to allow that to dry. And what was that? 2-3 minutes? Okay, the paper is dry. Basically dry. Still got a bit of a balloon on there. That actually proves that it's still slightly damp. But next stage, clean brush, and I'm damping the tops of the distant land. And you'll see why. That distant land is going to be blue. I'm not saying which blue, because to be fair, any blue does. And a touch of yellow. Just looking for a bluey green, really. Very distant, so we'll start off on the outside. And if you notice, I'm actually painting where, just along the roof lines really. Not being too fussy with this. And you can see where I've damped, and it's actually bleeding up into the sky. Just painting around the chimneys and the roof lines, that sort of thing. And you've got to remember I'm painting from light through to dark, as you do with watercolour. That's a gantry there, so I'm leaving that unpainted. That goes out of the picture. Okay. And the next thing we do is put a blue-grey wash, in other words blue and a touch of red, not saying which, you use the blues and the reds you would like. And I'm going to paint the cap of the mill. It has a slight, these Norfolk mills quite often have a bit of a sort of what I'd call a Dutch influence, presumably because it's actually in that sort of area of you know, you in as much as you know, just across the North Sea, you do have Holland, so presumably you do have that sort of connection. Painting around the windows. See, I'm using a blue to put it into more or less a slightly shadow effect. I'm adding a little bit more red, not too much, a little bit deeper colour now for the buildings. And that's the chimney. That's the roof of that building. Using a large brush because that to me will give me the looseness, really loose, trying to pick up a little bit of the colour. Oh, there's a roof there. Let's see how I'm leaving a tad of white along the tops of the roof areas, a little bit of roof coming out there. Just clean the bottoms of those up just so they're fairly straight. We're not too much fussed. There you go. So that's that. And then we use a bit more grey, so we add a bit of brown to that to give it a slightly more earthy, slightly weaker colour for the walls. And the reason for that is they are actually, those of you that know North Norfolk, quite sorry, just get these in. They're quite greystone, flint stone, and so consequently we're looking for a slightly grey, earthy grey for the flint stuff. You notice I'm leaving the light colour onto the right hand side, just a bead of colour there. Just lift that off, and then I'm going in with a very deep greeny blue with a touch of red in, so it's a yellow and a blue with a touch of red in there, because this lovely old, let's add a bit more green to that, a bit more red, there you go. That's what we're looking for, a bit of a shadowed sort of feel to that hedging. Well, it's more of a shrub really. And I'm just dragging the brush across like that. There you go. Bit more green now, so a bit more blue in here, a bit more red, yellow. And this actually is a hedging. You paint them separately, they look separate. That is virtually the next stage. Let's add a little bit more blue and a little bit more yellow to get a slightly more local greeny grey, because everything's grey, mainly because it's all in shadow. And we've got the foreground sort of hedging there, and then we'll go in a little bit darker with this grey, more of a grey-green, to pick up hedging and grasses that are somewhat closer to us. Now I'll come down a bit low with that, so you just get a piece of tissue and mop it away. And then we put that greeny grey into the lower part of that hedging and shrub while it's still damp, because that more or less opens up the gives a sense of light. There we are. And then finally for this stage, foreground, red, blue, a bit more blue, there you go, a bit more red, quite a purpley colour this, and this will be for the shadow in the foreground, running from the hedging in the distance. And just use the pointer brush when you produce these sort of foreground shadows. And of course they have perspective, that's why I'm making them longer as we come forward. And then I'm adding blue in, see where that blue is going to sparkle through, and the red. Oh, that's nice, love it, love it, a bit more blue in that, there we go. And that is what I'd call the next stage of the painting. What was that, 5 minutes? Need to allow that to dry. Okay, next stage is to deepen all of the buildings and have a little bit of feel of light coming from behind the buildings themselves. So what we do, we paint in the, let's get the sails in to start with, because it's all going to be painted as a block. So we paint down like that, very, very roughly, nothing too fussy. Sails, and quickly put in some rib work. As I say, nothing too fussy. Not counting them, just painting them. It's what I say with when you're doing these sorts of subjects. You know, don't count the sails, the ribs in the sails. It really is an impression of a mill. If you want detail, well, that's a different sort of painting. Okay, now you've got that lovely sort of cap on the top there. It's meant to be a ball on the top there, so let's just, yeah, there we go. Now I'm going to paint all of the cap of the mill and blend the sails into the cap. Go. Then I'm going to paint, just reload the brush. Brush has to be reloaded very often, a lot, when you're painting these subjects. Paint around the windows again, may as well do that at this stage. That'll be on the final touches when we leave windows out. And I'm using a very large rigger for this, because points up well, gives us the opportunity to create reasonable edges. You know, although this is this is a loose picture, I very much like to paint it in with a little bit of sense of detail. And then, of course, we've got the railings. So that's all we need to do for the railings. Just put them like that. And a little bit across the top, perhaps, just a little bit of suggestion there that they're wider than the. And there's a window there, a window there, and a window there. Now, that's all you need. Now I'm adding a little more red to that. So a little bit more red. Any red? I'm just picking up reds at random, really. And I'm going to paint in that roof work there. Remember, there is a gable there, so let's just leave that at this stage. It's like a dormer window. Leave that, paint around that, and then we do this one with chimney. Quite simply, trying to leave a little bit on the right hand side. White, see that area there of the building? Leaving that white. And I'm just painting through with that. There is another chimney there, a little touch of white down the right hand side of the chimney. Just try to leave a bead where there's a separation of those two areas there. And then just suggest the outside of that hedging. Okay, it's all good. Continue with this colour. What are we here? Oh, right. Another roof area. Out, down, across. Leave a bead just there so we can see a separation. Funny little roofs. You get those in Norfolk. Funny little roof areas. Just picking up the gable of that. I think that's important to put in. Then with this colour, I'm going to put in the windows. Quite simply suggested. There's 3 here. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And oh, there's a little bit of, there's actually a building there that I've missed, so we'll paint that in shortly. Now I'm adding a bit more grey now. bit of yellow to that to make it less intense, because the walls of these buildings won't be as intense as the rest of the roofs, purely because so it's beginning to run. Not concerned at all with that. Far better just to leave it, allow it to do its own thing. There is another building there, so I've quickly painted that in. Got over that one without too much of a problem. And just try and keep around the windows, just trying to keep around those. Another area there, just to give it slightly deeper tone. That's it. There we go. And there's a casting shadow there. Brilliant. So that's that. Now, all we need now is to deepen that. Okay? So that's really, you know, it's getting there. It's a very quick step sort of thing you do when you're out painting in the fields and creating these quick pieces that quick paintings that sometimes turn out, you know, probably better than anything you can do in the studio. Although I'm doing this in the studio, but it's only a demonstration of what could be produced out in the field, really, which I do quite often. Bring some of that texture stuff up a little bit higher. There you go. Let's go a little bit darker there, a bit thicker in colour. There's a perspective there, and a bit more red because it's a bit earthy, the edging, a bit lighter. Can leave a bead of unpainted colour on the top. There you go. There you go. And then I'm going to pass a very weak sort of bluey greeny grey onto the field. So I'm spreading that. We don't quite know where the field begins and where the just a final shadow onto that. Lovely, deep, beautiful. And there may be some sort of shadow on the field. Quite often there is, you know, on these sort of subjects you get a shadow on the field, bit of misting. See how it's misted in? Always works well. Don't overpaint everything. Allow some of that to come through. And finally, the old crop markings. Well, that's really just a red and a touch of blue in there. And we start off, I'm going to go while it's still wet, and I'm just touching in a little bit of the crop markings there, a little bit there. Very bold in the foreground, extremely bold. It just gives an impression of perspective, really. You know, it's what they are, I don't know. I'm not really fussed, to be truthful, but it gives a nice feeling, and I'm just slodging those in. Is that a word, slodging? Well, it is now. Just slodging those in. Okay, so that's the next stage. That needs to be allowed to dry. Then we've got one more stage to complete. Okay, this is the final stage of the painting. Using a blue and a red to produce a sort of a bluey, purpley colour, more of a grey really, I suppose. And what I'm going to do now is just put in where the sails are crossing the mill, because you can't see them at this stage, but It's quite a thick area, that. Here we are. That's where the sails are crossing the mill, and also where the ends of the sails finish. Let's add a bit more to that. There we go. Add a bit more to that. There we are. So that just shows you where the sails finish. Where the cap finishes, that would be nice, just to help give a bit of strength to that. And what else have we got? That sort of area. We've got the window, a bit of shadow, a bit of extra shadow there, just to give it a bit of depth of colour. Right, the windows here, a bit of depth on the shadow. Down that area on that window, windows there, and there's another window there. Notice I'm only going across and down the right, because that gives a sense of sunlight coming from the left. It could be an overhang shadow, sort of there, possibly. And possibly under that part of the roof. That's good. Casting shadow from that building there. A bit deeper shadow under the roofs there. Perhaps just shows a bit of shadow. Extra shadow work sometimes helps to enhance the whole picture. Nice to soften that away. That's worked well. Also, a bit of weak shadow now. Up to that area there, just to give a sense that, you know, it's all just finishing touches. That's what I call it, finishing touches. I think there's a bit of a hedge that runs across that area, so it's not a bad idea to show that, or edge of the field or whatever. Notice how I'm painting that in very loosely, very quick. It may be possible even to have a figure in, I don't know. Should we try a figure? Figure there, perhaps a figure there. Walking along, I don't know whether that should be or whether it shouldn't be, who knows. Okay, so that's that. So we're pretty much there, really, you know. As I say, when you're out in the field, you sometimes have to paint very, very quick, and this is really to show you how you bring home a rendition of what you've seen, really, you know. I'm going to put some extra bars in there, some extra bars in there, not counting them, as I said, really is just a suggestion, extra sort of touches in there just to thicken them up, otherwise they look a little bit thin. And that is really, really pretty much there, you know. Just going to deepen a couple of areas. I know I keep saying that, but it will be the end very shortly. Just a blue, red, and actually I'm putting a brown with this as well, because I want a bit of punch from the shadow of that side. There's a building there, shows up the corner of that building. Then I'm going to weaken that, because that comes out of the shadow of the building itself in a way. Just holds in that left hand side. See how that holds in that left hand side? That highlights the corner of that building. Then I'm going to, could use a large brush for this, but I'm going to go with a smaller brush, painting on its side, across there like that, to give a third dimension to that hedge. Just a little bit of detail to that, and also a sense of where, like a bank, like a grass bank, that helps to give perspective. Notice how I'm being very, very weak with that. And one last thing, right, the roof of that building is red, or the roof of the buildings are red. So, just as a touch of interest, I'm going to put red on there, and red on the ends there, red on the sunlit sides of the chimneys and chimney pots. There you go. Brilliant. Now that needs to be left to dry, but all I need to do now is to take off the outside cover, or the surround, because this, it's a little tip I recommend that most of you do if you're going to paint a picture. It's not to hold the paper down onto the paper, onto the board. It's actually, there we are, is to give the final picture a mount, really, so you can see exactly what you've produced. And notice I've actually caught the four corners, but the rest you can see is beginning to have some movement. That's purely because everything's wet. Once it completely dries, you need to sign it, and I'm going to do that. Always a good idea to think where you're going to sign it, and I'm going to sign it in the shadow area so it's not too dominant, and that's and I'm signing it in the paint as I do now. I never used to, but and that is a painting of Bircham Mill in Norfolk, and hope you've enjoyed that one. It's one of those pictures that you could have painted. How long have I been? 20 minutes? You know, half hour at the most? Well, there you go. That just shows you how quick these subjects can come up. So have a go yourself. Just put the paint on, you know, freely and loosely, and you'll gradually learn how to produce these sorts of paintings, really. Hope you've enjoyed that. Stay tuned, and please subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you again very soon.